Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the beautiful Tasha Reynolds. Tasha, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing? Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm super, super excited to have you here. But before we talk about why you're here, I would like for the people that don't know you to get to know you a little bit. You are the co-founder of the Sinister Scoop review site, the host of the Ghoulish Gallery podcast, freelance editor, and author. Now, that's a lot of feathers in the cap. How do you manage the time to juggle all these things at once?
Um, if I ever figure out the answer to that, I'll let you know. It's I mean, the Scoop started out as like my personal review blog.
Mhm.
And I'm currently my 9 to 5 is working as a dispatcher. But I'm trying to kind of turn all of those hobbies into my
Yeah.
job. So thankfully that is all so relaxing to me and I enjoy it so much that it's kind of like my relief from the 9 to 5. So there's a couple of times I forget to write something down and it's like, oh God, but
Oh,
thankfully for the most part I'm able to sort it out.
right. Well, I mean, and when we talk about you being an author, you are published. You have stories in That Old House, The Bathroom Part One, Dark Blooms, Girls Coming of Age Horrors, and you wrote the intro for Livestock Horror Stories from the Unheard. It's a charity anthology supporting the Center for Reproductive Rights. Fucking
Yep.
amazing. Thank you.
It was
Um,
such a good project. I did that with Angel. Um
mhm.
and that is like forever our baby. Like she said it to release on my birthday, which was like, ugh, just the
That's
sweetest.
so
So
awesome. And when you
that's
can
my
hear about, going for such a great cause like that, that's about as special as it gets. Like
oh,
there are people out there that are fighting to be able to have the healthcare that they need to have in that department, and to see so many people out there that are fighting for that is amazing. It's really, really cool. And we also got to talk a little bit about Journey and Ripley, your pups. um like, I am
yeah.
a huge dog lover, so when I heard that you were, you can see pictures of them, all the shenanigans they have. Oh, we got
Yep.
puppies right there.
Journey's there. Ripley is quiet, which is concerning. Um, One of the first times I filmed when I kind of started getting back into things, I didn't hear a peep out of her, and I finished up, walked out into the living room, and she had gone through my dirty laundry, and I found my clothes out in the yard.
Oh, nice.
She took them everywhere. So message received, and I try to like make sure she can be in here with me for when she needs attention so that she doesn't take it out on my dirty socks.
Right,
So
exactly. That's the last thing any of us want, is dirty socks in the lawn.
uh, it's hard enough to mow. Thankfully, it's fenced at least, so it spared me public embarrassment. But
Right.
yeah, I learned she takes after her namesake, so she's fiery.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, and the cool thing about this is, like I said, you have the Sinister Scoop, the Ghoulish Gallery podcast, and all these things that you guys can find by clicking the links down in the description, as well as Tasha's social media. So make sure you're following her on social media so you can become a part of her family and learn about all the amazing things she has coming up for us in the future as well. But in order to do all these amazing horror related things, horror had to start for you somewhere, Tasha. So now I would like to go back to the past and talk about what it was that got you started in the horror genre, your first horror movie. And Tasha, your first horror movie was?
I'm going with Signs. It's a complicated story. Um, Anybody who listens to the podcast on a regular basis, will hear me talk about how I've had a very off and on again relationship with horror. I would go through phases, loved it, and then couldn't watch it, and then loved it again, and then couldn't watch it. So it's only in the last few years that I've like hardcore gotten into it. Um, but this is the one that stuck with me as being the first that I can really recall when
Mm-hmm.
I watched it. So,
Well, and do you remember about how old you were the first time you had seen it?
um, so it was when it came out, which I think was 2004.
Question mark? Yeah, I'm not
Um,
100% sure either.
yeah. Um, I am not using technology to find the answer that I should already know. 2002, just kidding. So I would have been like 13-ish.
Hmm.
And my dad actually took us to the drive-in to see this,
That's
which was
awesome.
like the best experience. And some of this was actually filmed near where I grew up in upstate New York. And of course, that's where we went to see it. So we saw it at a drive-in surrounded by cornfields. So,
Which is even better because it really
oh my
does
gosh.
enhance what, especially for that movie, what you're going through with all the, the scenery that's going on in that movie. And this is a movie that I love. I know it's a very divisive movie. I know some people either love it or they hate it. I genuinely love this movie, and I love the idea of water killing aliens. I think it's brilliant. They're not from here. They don't have to have the same stuff we need to survive. But do you remember which scene it was that affected you the most?
Um, it's tough because I feel like usually everybody's go-to is when he's in the closet and they're showing the clip from South America and it's got the alien walking across and he like loses his mind. I think what for whatever reason what sticks with me is when they're preparing the house to get in the basement. And you see, oh no, I'm just kidding. I got ahead of myself. It's when they are in the basement and the hand reaches through behind the chute.
Mhm.
Just oh, you're already in the dark. They're shining the flashlight around, so you're only getting bits and pieces of things. And next thing you know, there's just something coming around with as hard as they've tried to secure themselves, like they still didn't get everything. So just
And it
ugh.
grabs your son too, like that
Yes.
whole moment of anxiety, being around your kids, and trying to defend them from this thing that is completely foreign. You don't know the best way to protect your kids and all the loss this guy's already suffered and losing his faith. And it really is a well written story. And the movie is so good. I liken it. Now, please understand, guys, I'm not saying that it had the same impact, but I liken this to Scream, and I know what you did last summer because it was so impactful at the time it came out. Scary Movie 3 pretty much wrote itself around this movie. And that's the impact that Scream had. That's the impact that House on Haunted Hill and everything had for part two. And then Scream 3 comes out, and it's pretty much this movie, just parodied to hell. And um, this movie it really did divide the horror community, and not very many kills in this movie, so we can't really talk about the kills. But do you have a favorite scene from this film?
I would probably have to go with the pantry when he slides the knife. I mean, it was that alone was a brilliant writing. And just the effect that it had with the viewing of it. Like you're waiting as he's tipping this knife because you
Yeah.
know it's gonna come up. Um, and ironically, like as much as people kind of give this movie shit, everybody's always got like there are so many recognizable scenes in this movie that, people can be like, oh yeah, that one. So it to some extent it does stick with people. So
And it really does. Like I said, these are the things that really, really throw us for a loop. Um, Seeing these aliens for the first time, like holy shit. And the storytelling and the way they build it up to get to that point is awesome. And now, obviously, in Hollywood, we get, remakes, requels, sequels. It's all the rage. They want to build on these things.
mm.
Would you like to see them either remake Signs Today or have some type of requel X amount of years later? Is that something you'd be interested in seeing?
um I would kind of struggle with that because I think they would have to place it pretty closely to the end of the beginning if they decided to do like a sequel because they've kind of given them the tools that they need to defeat these things.
Right.
So, hit up Dollar General for a water gun and, um and it's tough because the chemistry with the actors like the kids did such a phenomenal job. Not to say that there aren't, good kid actors out there now, but I would be a hard sell, I
Right.
think.
And I agree, especially with the fact that Shyamalan is still making films now.
Mm.
And this guy has a way of twisting stuff together. So I wouldn't be surprised if he did some type of sequel that, or even prequel that tied into this one at the end, like he did with Split and Glass. And if it's Shyamalan, I'm in. So I'd have to see, what direction they would take it. But,
Yeah.
and with this being a standalone film, I can't ask you what your favorite in the franchise is, but we kind of lump all of M. Night Shyamalan films together. So I can ask you, what is your favorite M. Night Shyamalan film?
That would have to be either this one or The Visit. The Visit is another one, like when they're underneath the house and she just comes flying out from between the pillars underneath. That was rough. But yeah, this one it's very near and dear.
Mm-hmm. And The Visit's another one of those films that I almost had to get up and walk out when the grandpa put the dirty diaper in the kid's face. Like
Oh,
that was too much for me. I'm a germaphobe to the point to where I take my own silverware with me to a restaurant if I go out to eat, and I ask them to bring me my food in a to-go bin because I don't want my food touching plates that other people have had their fucking mouth on.
and who
Like,
knows what?
yeah, bring me a drink in a styrofoam cup. If my friends surprise me, we go out to dinner. I want all styrofoam or plastic silverware. Like the
Yeah, one
thought
time
of
you.
someone shoving a dirty diaper in my fucking face,
Oh,
like one of us is dead in the
it,
next 5 minutes. Like one of us is gone from this plane of
yeah.
existence and onto the next. So I love that movie too, and I thought it was a very original twist. It wasn't the direction that I thought that movie was going to take.
Yeah, and the way they set it up too, like because most people it's like, oh, how do you not know what your grandparents look like? So they do a good job of explaining that without it being like in your face exposition dump. They worked it in really well to the storyline as a whole. So I appreciated that.
Absolutely. So we've talked about your first horror movie being Signs and what that movie means to you. But here for a second, I do want to throw you a little bit of a curveball. My little buddy Ghostface is here, and he has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Tasha? What is your
Ugh.
favorite horror movie of all time?
It's kind of a tie. Shaun of the Dead and Barbarian. I am obsessed with both of them. I know they are nothing even remotely similar, but yeah, I will fight to the grave for those anytime. I
I
will
adore
die on that
both those
hill.
movies. Both of them. I fucking like
They're
Shaun
so
of the
good.
Dead to me is I've always said the worst thing about Shaun of the Dead is the name of the movie because people hear Shaun of the Dead and they think it's like a scary movie, spoof type movie, and it's not. Like
Mhm.
it's its own real, legit movie, and it's funny, it's scary. I fucking cry every time Barbara dies in the bar.
Oh
Um,
no.
oh my god, it's so good! Like such a great movie. And Barbarian was my favorite movie of 2022. Um,
I love
Georgina,
it.
she is just like skyrocketed. She just did Lovely, Dark, and Deep. She's doing The Watchers
Yes.
later. I'm excited for. I can't wait to see what else she does in Barbarian. Just like the most perfectly marketed movie I've
Oh
ever
yeah.
seen was Barbarian. You went into that movie. The only thing I knew about that movie was Justin Long, Georgina Hall, and Bill Skarsgård were in it, and that was all I needed. I was like, okay, I'm in. I'm sold.
Yeah.
You sold me.
So
And then to watch the character of Justin Long, you're like, this guy's awesome. Then you're like, fuck this guy. I fucking hate this guy. You're like, you know what? Maybe he understands. No, no, fuck him. I hate him again. Um, and
yes.
only he's charming enough to pull that off to make you love and hate him at the exact same time. So,
Oh
um,
yeah.
great choices. I cannot argue with either one of those. I think both those choices are fucking phenomenal. I love both those movies. So,
So good. And
um,
I love like with Shaun of the Dead, you watch it from like a teen perspective and
mhm.
it's still funny. But then as you're an adult and you hit like Sean's age, it's funny for an entirely different reason, but it's no less funny. Like because you relate to him at this point, as opposed to just kind of like, oh, look at this dumb adult.
Yeah,
So
when he's like, come on,
it,
Grandpa. He's like, I'm 30 years old, man. He's like, what are you? And he's like, 17. Oh, like,
right? Like,
I love that
and
part. He's like, I'm not going to be here forever. I got plans. And the kid's like, when? And he's just like, ooh, touche.
such a little asshole.
Right. Still, one of my favorite parts of that movie, and I'll talk about it all the time. It's just so perfect to me. And this is such my humor when they meet up with the other group when they're walking by the fence, and then each one of them is like the other person. Like that part to me is so fun. It's the most British humor thing ever.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Um, and I was just watching this thing about I don't remember what it was, but it was this British guy talking to another British guy. He's like, hey, do you know the fastest way to get to the city? And he was like, are you driving or walking? And he was like, driving. And he's like, yep, that's the fastest way. And he drives off. And I was just like, shut the fuck up. That's the greatest thing ever. Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. I love that whole trilogy, the whole Coronado trilogy. I think it's great. Um, when Hot Fuzz had came out, I had a DVD that was just Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz on it, and I would play that every night when I went to bed on repeat. And I would just wake up at certain parts. I love both those movies. I can't choose between them. Like people, which one do you like more? I don't know because they're both absolute. And it's funny because Hot Fuzz, like, yeah, it's an action adventure, but it's totally like a folk slasher too, with like a great
Oh, yeah,
twist on it. So,
like
but that's enough
chills.
about me. We're here to talk about you. Um, but I have had an amazing time talking about some of your favorite horror movies, your first horror movie. And I do want to remind everybody that all of Tasha's links are down in the description. So make sure you're following on social media. Make sure you're checking out the podcast, checking out the review site, doing all the due justice that you need to do. But before I let you go, we always bounce back to the same question. We're going to go back to signs. And what we're going to do is rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not ranking it on acting, production, score, direction, nothing like that. We're not being critics. What we're doing here is strictly ranking signs on how much it affected you on your first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. Tasha, what would your ranking of signs be?
Oh God, as a 14-year-old watching this in the middle of a cornfield, I would have to go like I might have to go straight 5.
Yeah.
It was horrifying. And then driving home
I was
afterwards,
just going to say, I bet pulling out and seeing those cornfields right
yes,
there.
yes, it was everywhere. And it wasn't until a little after that that I found out it was actually filmed not too far from there. And then at that point I was just like, I was done.
I'm glad that it had such an impact on you. It's something you could share with your family. And that's why I
Oh
love
yeah.
talking about our first four movies, because it rewinds us back to these times and how important they were to us being with our families and doing these things. So
Mhm.
I do want to thank you so much for coming and hanging out. Please don't go anywhere, though. I got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
Everyone else, if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. It helps to build the channel more than you know. And
Do
follow
it.
Sledgehammer Horror on social media. Our links are in the description as well. But until next time, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.